and we're running a little behind from a previous Economic Development Corporation meeting. At this time, I'll call our regular scheduled council meeting to order and ask Council Member Pullen to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and bow your head?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer, Lord. We thank you for everything you have done for us. We praise you for being our Savior. We ask that you give us the intelligence and your backing in every decision we make. Let's make this Orange, Texas a greater orange.
Yes, Lord.
Lord, be with us and help our citizens that are still suffering through Harvey.
Yes.
Help them to progress forward. Help us to help them. In Jesus Christ's name. Oh, Lord, also please be with Kurt Lacy and his
Yes,
funding. Be with him so he can get his money for his medical procedures. And please touch him and heal him. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Pullen. Item 3, motion finding that the advanced posting and notice requirements of Article 8.1200 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Orange, Texas have been met in relation to all minutes and pending ordinances and resolutions on this agenda, and that the reading of such items be confined to the captions as are agreed upon by the ordinances and resolutions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4, approval of minutes. A, March 6, 2018, special call city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4B, March 13, 2018, regular city council meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, citizen comments. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum 3 minutes for each speaker. Your comments are appreciated, as the Texas Open Meetings Act does not allow the council to respond to items not listed on the agenda. Your comments will be duly noted by the council and forwarded to the appropriate department for prompt consideration. First on the list is Ms. Brandy Judice.
Good evening. I would like to create awareness for our upcoming event, the Art in the Park. It's our 16th annual. It's going to take place on April 7th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. held at Stark Park. As of right now, I have 112 artists and crafters that have registered. We're going to have food vendors and kids activities and pretty much fun for everybody. It's going to take place the same weekend that we have the Bassmasters. Some of our advertising that I did for this was Texas Monthly, AdSource, The Examiner, KOGT, What's Happening Orange County, and we'll be having a spot for News at Noon also. Also would like to mention the Easter egg hunt that we support our park staff department that puts on. That'll take place on Good Friday, March 30th. That is held at our Riverfront Pavilion. The gates are at 9 and the hunt takes place at 10 a.m. There's going to be free hot dogs and drinks for everybody, a petting zoo, and other kids' activities. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Next, Ms. Essie Belfield.
Hello, Ess.
Greetings to all of you. Good to be back and look at you and tell you what I want you to know.
For the record, could you state your name and address, please?
I'm Mrs. Essie Belfield, 1907 Link Street, Orange, Texas. I'm here to talk about the bus, the Greyhound bus. Now, we have it stopping here on 62, but there's no sign up there where a person will know it's the bus. So would we look into seeing if they can put a sign up saying Greyhound bus? I'm looking for you to do it, sir. The next thing is the water tower. I asked y'all to see about putting an orange on the water tower on Simmons Drive. Simmons Drive is a state highway. People coming into the city, they need to know they're in Orange. Now, I've seen the signs everywhere else, and you told me $30,000. So what, $30,000, what it takes? Put the sign up, because it's a entrance to the city, and we need to have that orange on it. The one that has it on it looks real, real good. I want to say, I see where we're going to do something with water. Oh, Lord, I was going to say a wrong word. I want to say when the blank you've done with the streets. What street have you done anything to? When have you covered a street? When have you covered a manhole in the street? You need to see something about the streets, and definitely the one going to going to the country center down there. It's horrible. Take your car and tear it all up. So these are things that I will be coming back with, about that bus and about the water tower, as long as I can say it. Now, right now, I can't do too much because I got trigeminal neuralgia, but my brain is still good. I can still raise hell. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belfield. Next, Ms. Teresa Beecham.
No, I found out mine is.
Public, okay, no problem. All right, that's all we had sign up. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council in citizen comments? Okay, if there's no one else, then we'll move to item 6, proclamation, Fair Housing Month. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor of the City of Orange. Whereas the National Fair Housing Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination in housing and declares it a national policy to provide within constitutional limits for fair housing in the United States. And whereas the principle of fair housing is not only national law and national policy, but a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas the 50th anniversary of the National Fair Housing Law during the month of April provides an opportunity for all Americans to recognize that complete success in the goal of equal housing opportunity can only be accomplished with the help and cooperation of all Americans. Now therefore, I, Jimmy Sims, Mayor of the City of Orange, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Orange, and do hereby urge all citizens of this municipality to become aware of and support the fair housing law. Is there someone here with the fair housing?
I want to say on behalf of the Orange Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, thank you for the City of Orange who sees the need to help people find fair housing, find situations in their health care, and as well as financial development. Some 5 years ago, we were asked as a chapter to participate in the Fair Housing Conference. And without nothing holding us back, we decided to do so. It saddens me to know that we will not be doing it this year, but it is a noteworthy something that I think everyone would profit from, especially since we have been affected by Hurricane Harvey. So again, on behalf of the Orange Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, thank you to City of Orange for at least seeing the need to strive and to help the people of this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to alter the agenda and move up to item 10C, and then we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. Item 10C, consider a motion accepting the Orange Economic Development Corporation audit as presented by Charles E. Reed and Associates, P.C., for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2017. Ms. Zito.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Our auditors are here to present the audit. He's already passed out copies. I believe everyone has one. And this is Charles E. Reed, and he'll go over the audit for y'all.
Good afternoon. My name's Charles Reed. Thank you for having me. You should all have a copy of the report in front of you. I want to read from our audit letter, which begins on page 1, second page back. I want to read the paragraph on page 2 under the heading Opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities and major funds of the Orange Economic Development Corporation as of September 30, 2017, and respective changes in financial position for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is called an unqualified audit opinion or a clean audit opinion. Your books and records were in good shape, are in good shape. We did receive full cooperation from your management and staff. If you would turn to page 23. This is a budget and actual comparison between the EDC budget and what actually happened. The budget of revenues, $1,384,000, and your actual was $1,674,000. You collected more sales tax than you anticipated than the EDC budgeted for, and the city donated a building of approximately $175,000, which is in the donation land. Your expenditures.
Look, we received a building, right? Or are you talking about the one that we received?
The EDC, it came to the city and then to the EDC.
Oh, okay.
Under the expenditures, you budgeted $2,725,000. Your actual $1,498,000. The reason, I believe, for the big variance or big difference that you didn't spend near as much as you budgeted, if you turn to page 19. I'm sorry, 21, page 21. Under note 7, individual projects related to continued economic development are in planning and negotiation stage, amount to $1,944,000. At the issuance of these statements, no commitments have been issued by the Orange Economic Development Corporation. So a lot of the projects are in the early stages, and you budgeted, the EDC budgeted for them, but those monies weren't spent by September 30. I also want to read a note on page 18. This is in the middle of the page. the corporation's deposits in banks at year-end were entirely covered by federal depository insurance or by acceptable collateral held by the corporation's agent in the corporation's name. Your money was insured or collateralized. I mean, I don't think the bank's having any problems, but it's always good to be covered. Page 9. We're going sort of backwards. Page 9 is, I call this a balance sheet. It is titled Statement of Net Position. The third column is the entire EDC. There's a fund column and then some adjustments to get to the government-wide or the total EDC. You have $10,336,000 of assets, and these are cash and some receivables and capital assets or fixed assets. Your liabilities total $6,285,000, and of this, approximately $6,100,000 are bonds that are payable over, I believe, 20 years. Your equity, $4,050,000. So you're very strong. You have good fund balance or fund equity. Beginning on page 3, pages 3 through 7, this is titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. I would encourage you to read through this. It talks about some of the highlights and compares this year and last year on the balance sheet, and compares this year and last year on the income statement and capital assets and debt, and also has some of the future budgets and things that affect the EDC. I would be glad to continue to go through some of this or try to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm sorry, we were just handed this. On page 21, the future commitments, the $1,944,000, does that mean that we're right now standing at a negative $450,000, or is that built into the future income for the EDC?
These are not, you've not obligated or signed contracts. These are projects that are in the early stages, and they are built in, and they were budgeted, or some of them were budgeted for in this year that weren't achieved.
If they were all to hit right now, where would we stand?
Well, they won't all hit right now, but you'd be about what you said, a negative.
Okay.
But it'll take a couple years at least.
Okay, I apologize. Like I said, we just got
I
this.
should have got it to you a lot sooner.
That's all I have.
Your city staff, your EDC staff keeps real good records, and like I said, we did receive full cooperation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reed and Councilman, let me just clarify your question. The EDC and the council has not committed to any projects that will put you in a deficit position in your budget.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept it.
A second.
It's presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, this is the second time we went over it, and I asked him earlier if we had good help here at the city, and his answer was,
No.
You have good help here at the city.
Mr. Reed, thank you. You've been a part of our city for quite some time, and you don't let us down every time. You come through with your company, your firm, and we appreciate what you do because it keeps us informed so that we can stay positive, and we feel comfortable knowing that we're up on the numbers when you appear to us.
Well, I believe 60% of the city, or at least the people, had some kind of damage from the hurricane, and more than 50% of the employees of the city. It's tough.
Yeah, when did y'all start? Was it in 14?
Yes, sir. You'll have to get rid of us pretty soon. I think we roll off in a year or two.
Yeah, you turn them out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, is
Thank you.
any opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, we'll move back to the agenda on item 7, public hearings. 7A, conduct a public hearing on a request for rezoning from Lisa and Demetrius Hunter for lots 7, 8, and 9 of Block A of the LT Grubbs subdivision, also known as 1402, 1404, 1406, 10th Street from R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District to C1 Light Commercial Zoning District. Mr. Knopf.
Yes, sir. Demetrius and Lisa Hunter are requesting the 3 lots that they own near the intersection of 10th Street and Burton Avenue be rezoned from R2 medium density residential to C1 light commercial. They own the barber shop there that's located, they're close to that intersection of 10th Street and Burton Avenue, and they would like to tear that barber shop down and build a new barber shop. But to give them enough room to work to accommodate all the site development ordinances, then we're proposing, excuse me, that they rezone those other 3 lots to commercial also. And this is an opportunity for the public to ask any questions or make any comments on the proposed rezoning. I think we have some maps coming up here and an aerial photo as well. Doing it. And you see where the arrows are pointing in the yellow highlighted areas. Those are the 3 lots currently being requested to go from residential to commercial zoning. And then this is the aerial photo showing the area to give you an idea as far as where we're talking about.
Mr. Knopf, has there been any public feedback?
No, sir. The Planning and Zoning Commission had a public hearing earlier this month, and there was nobody spoke at that public hearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this when it comes time.
It's public
I
hearing.
know, I'm sorry, I was gonna finish. What I was gonna say is because I highly recommend it. Lisa and Demetrius do a lot for the community. Not only do they have the shop there, but that area that they use, that they're trying to redevelop, is also used by many churches. Organizations come out there when they're looking for donations for help and funding. So I think this will be a great improvement for that area, and they have been an asset to the community for many, many years.
I agree. I think we really need this area to develop. 16th Street is not our only, in MacArthur. We have other areas that we need to develop, and it will be a great opportunity. That street is traveled by lots of people on a daily basis, and I think it will be moving in the right direction.
Yes.
I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. I've known Mr. Hunter for years and years and years when we both worked for the city. He is a very obligated and forthcoming person. He has great aspirations for this city. He has been on many boards and continues to run. But he is a good citizen, and I think we need to help.
Have you had any objections from the people that have property next to this property?
Mayor, before we get into that, if you'll just please open the public hearing, then the comment can be addressed.
Okay. At this time, I'll open it to the people in the audience now, and while we're in public hearing. So you want to maybe state Ms. Belfield's comment there about
If I understand the question was, did I receive any comments from the public about the rezoning? No, I had some questions about it. We send out letters to people within 300 feet of the proposed rezoning, so I did have some calls and people come by asking questions about it, but nobody spoke in opposition to it.
Mr. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, Mr. Knopf, this area, and I want to be clear, the barbershop already exists on that lot. This is just extending it to, just a little bit to the right or left or something like to that effect, right? Because it goes to Hart Street.
Isn't it a total redo?
So that's all it's doing, right?
Right, it's to the south. The barbershop actually, part of it is in the area designated C1 up there. And then what we're proposing is the vacant area to the south of the barbershop be rezoned to C1 as well. So, yeah, the barbershop is currently in this area. It's not exactly on these lots, so they're vacant. So.
Okay.
Okay, is anyone else in the audience would like to make a comment while we're in the public hearing? Council?
I think it's great we developed that area.
Okay.
I think it's needed.
All right, I'll close the public hearing, move to item 7B. Conduct a public hearing on a request for rezoning from Woody Dorman of rezoning 1.378 acres out of a 26.86 acre tract of partial of land conveyed to Woodrow W. Dorman III by deed record in volume 1106, page 273 of the official public records of real property, Orange County, Texas, located at the northeastern corner of Tulane Road and Old Timers Road, also known as 325 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and 335 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive from R3 high-density residential zoning district to C2 commercial zoning district. Mr. Knoll.
This is a rezoning request by Mr. Torman to rezone part of the property that he owns from residential 3 to commercial 2 property. It's a little unusual in that both parcels that he owns, part of it is currently zoned commercial 2 and part of it's currently zoned residential 3. Normally in zoning, you run down the street line, you run between lot lines. In this case, it actually runs through part of his property. And there is residential 3 to the north of this and then, on Old Timers Road, and then also commercial 2 to the north and to the east of this property. This is an opportunity, public Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing earlier this month and received comments, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission, after the public hearing, voted 5-2 to recommend approval. And this public hearing is an opportunity for the public to come and make any comments about this request of rezoning.
Okay, I will open it up to the audience now for public comments.
Is this the one about
That's it.
Mayor, can I ask a question right quick?
It's also down here too, so I didn't know which one.
I'll get back to council after their,
Okay.
Yeah, one's a public hearing and then it comes back before us.
Excuse me, I was standing my name is Teresa Beecham, and I live at 405 Old Timers Road. And we came before the council, Mr. Dorman came before the council about 15 years ago, and I'm not sure exactly what the date was, but that's when it was. And that land at that time, the parcel, the pasture between Old Timers Road and MLK was deemed, they divided it in the middle, and from the middle to MLK was deemed commercial. From the middle to Old Timers Road was deemed residential. He formed advertised it in the paper, did everything. He has signs still there. They're falling down, but they're signs.
his Rosewood, I think is the name of it, Garden Homes. And he was going to develop that area into a garden home community. And he built 2 of them. He sold them, he sold the lot and he sold the house. And then the people kind of had a little, then they bought. And one was bought by Mrs. Halliburton, who is deceased now, and the other one by Gary and Joy Seaton. They are, what is it, when there's not a line?
Zero lot line.
Zero lot line, thank you, Annette. And that's what they are. In other garden communities, and this is just a sideline, the driveways are not next to each other. The driveway would be here, and then the driveway would be over here. But that's not how he did it, but that's how it is. Both of the driveways, you enter from Old Timers in a short driveway, and they're homes, and then the same thing. I cannot see how a council can go back on the word of this was residential. These people bought it in good faith residential. And now he's asking you to change the zoning to where it butts up to one of these houses on the side. And there's noise. There's a business. We have a recording of the noise. There's a business that used to be Grace and Armature. Now it's something with an S. I can't remember the name of it. Schumer. And it faces Tulane. They have a driveway out of it that's maybe about as far to Tulane from that building as the building where the wall where the pictures are on. It flooded, and so it was closed for a while. But the noise that we hear from that, and it's over on Tulane and MLK, past MLK, in the next block. Half a mile down the road. The noise, we have a recording of that for you all to listen to. But we're also concerned about the traffic coming out on Tulane, which is, I'm telling y'all, when it says Tulane, it is not just T-U-L-A-N-E, but it's Tulane, T-O-W. And Old Timers is even more narrow than that. The fairness, we have to look at economic development. I'm not against economic. But why does he have to take and go back on something that he planned and never followed through with on his own at the expense, disruption, and going back on the word, on what they signed, on what the sign says? And why would you do that when he still has half of that to be commercial? Why does he have to push more to have this little corner? Because they don't have to have that. So they may have something else that they would like to add to it. Mr. Halliburton's house will butt up to it. There will be concrete for a parking lot, or for part of the building, or for whatever. So when you put parking, now remember I told you that Grace and Armature flooded. When you put the concrete, that raises their elevation, but their houses' elevation's down here. So now, butted up to it, their little yards, their small little garden home yards and homes are going to flood. And that's not right to these people that have invested money and their life. That's where they live, because there's something also called a quality of life in Orange, Texas. And we have to think of that. And we have to think more creatively about, he has that part. I can't do anything about it, and they can't do anything about it, of what he has commercial now. But the greediness of having this one little corner to ruin their homes, the value and everything of their homes. When they bought it in faith that this, it's advertised, still right now, out on Tulane, these homes are still advertised, but he never developed. That's not our fault. It's his. You all might have something else you want to add? Yes, you were on the council, Ms. Davis.
Yes, I'd like to, this is Belfield again, off of Link Street. I was on the council when we did just what she's saying. Now, they didn't develop what they were supposed to have done. And if Halliburton was living, then we wouldn't have this problem. Because they would say something about their problem being, oh, hello. They would say something about that problem being there. Grover, my friend. Right. I just want to amen what she said, because I was responsible too for making decisions on that. And anything I'm responsible for, you can look at me, I'm going to do it. Thank you.
My name's Frank Beecham, and I live at 405 Old Timers. And I'm standing in my driveway, and I'm looking at the Halliburton's house. And on the other side of the Halliburton's house is Martin Luther King, but there's a wide expanse there. Martin Luther King goes to the north, off of Tulane. And about, I'd say, a half to maybe a little bit further down, mile down the road is where Grayson Armature is. So it's at least a half a mile. And on Martin Luther King and then Old Timers, there's a 200-300 yard space in there. And I'm standing on my driveway. Grayson Armature is running whatever kind of machine that they are running, a milling machine or something, I don't know what it is. But this is not, I did not jump up the sound or anything. This is what it sounds like standing in my driveway on Old Timers. So now, the same business, some type of the business that is going to go in there, or he's trying to get to go in there, and it's going to be right across the street from us and right next to the Halliburtons. I mean, right next to them. What kind of quality of life is that going to be for us? I mean, I know you wouldn't want that by your house. I don't believe you would. And I can't believe that you would not say, hey, put it on the other side. Put it on Martin Luther King. You got the whole Martin Luther King down there. There's plenty of places for it, not on Old Timers or button up to Old Timers. I thank you for your consideration. That's a lot of noise coming from a business at least a half a mile down Martin Luther King. It's not even that close to us. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Can I ask him a question?
Well, yeah, go ahead. We have a council.
I wanted to ask Mr. Beecham, when you were recording that, did you actually go and really actually see where this noise was actually coming from? Not just standing, I know you said you were standing outside your front, you know, in your yard, but did you get in your car or did you go and actually?
No, but we hear it from time to time. It's not a constant noise. It's not constant. I have to say that. But it's Grayson Armature.
You know for a fact that it came from that particular?
Right by there, it's really loud.
Okay.
And by the way, I don't know, you probably didn't notice the flag. It was flowing to the south, so there was a south wind pushing that wall. Should be got it down a little bit than what it was. But that's just.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Beecham, is that the business located next to Wilson Warehouse or the one to the left? Is that the one next door to the Wilson Warehouse? Or are you talking about the one across the street?
Wilson is on Tulane. They're across the street. But Grayson, if you turn on Martin Luther King, go north.
Oh, okay, I understand it.
About a half a mile or maybe a little bit.
Right, on the right. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, no, Wilson Warehouse doesn't put out that kind of.
Just to show you, like, I used to live right here on Tulane Street. So Grayson's Armature is actually about right here. Wilson's Warehouse is here.
Right.
Y'all all through here, and this is where they live, what they're talking about. But Grayson's Armature is on the corner. So when you're coming down MLK, if you're wanting to turn left.
So is it on
That's
Tulane
it.
or MLK?
It's that beige building.
Is it on Tulane or MLK?
It's on Tulane and it's on the corner of Tulane and MLK.
No.
It's, well, you know what I mean, it's,
No, he's saying that it was down Martin Luther King.
He's saying the other business on MLK.
You're saying it's
It's on
north of Tulane, right, on MLK?
Half a mile.
right, but I'm saying it's, okay, but I'm saying it's not Wilson's Warehouse. Wilson's Warehouse is on the south end.
Right, Wilson Warehouse,
Right.
across to.
And Grayson's Armature is in between like 37th and MLK, right?
Yes.
Right.
'Cause I used to run when I was trying to lose weight right by there, so.
But, so.
Thank you for
How far
clarifying.
from, Tulane is it to Grayson?
I'd say I did not, I should have driven this, but it's at least a half a mile.
Okay.
Up Martin Luther King.
That's what you're saying, is that?
From Martin Luther King.
That's what I think. Yeah, I thought that was, I thought that next one was a
Go ahead, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
My name is Cleve Halliburton. I live at 350 Old Timers Road. I'm the administrator of my mom, Sue Halliburton's estate. Back in, I guess it was '05,
This is,
well, right after Rita, my mom's house got destroyed.
this is Tulane.
And
He's saying that's-
we were,
I thought that was-
I remember sitting in the yard looking for houses.
Saying that's
We saw this for sale, and actually, I would like to pull this back up. This is the sign that's currently still up at the entrance to our neighborhood. Mr. Dorman's still advertising.
This was Grayson.
It's Marwood Homes. You build, I build. He had already had two built. We bought the second one, or my mother did. He was, you know, of course, at that time, he was in sales mode and telling us about all these other houses that he was gonna build and how nice this neighborhood was gonna be. Actually, on the other side of the first house, there's currently two pads that were put in place. So to us, it looked like two more houses were coming in. So we thought this would be a good investment for my mother at the time, who was probably 70, alone, that this would be a good place for her to live. So we paid full ask price for that house. Didn't negotiate at all. It was right after Rita. I mean, everything was, if you could find something that wasn't destroyed, you had to pay for it. So with all that, we made the purchase. What he's trying to do now is go back, and can't blame him. He's got a business, so he says, no proof of anything, that they want to buy the land, I don't know, 5-something acres, and that's currently zoned commercial. But as a nice to have, they would like the whole parcel of land so that they could have an exit onto Old Timers. That was what Mr. Dorman told us. He also told us that this deal is not contingent on getting this property rezoned. Again, it's another nice to have for Mr. Dorman so that he can complete or sell all of this property instead of being left with this 1.37 acre remnant piece that's currently zoned residential. But again, Mr. Dorman made his money off us, okay? And I don't really think it's fair that now he's gonna devalue my property in order to enrich himself again. We also would like to have some sort of resemblance of a neighborhood down Old Timers when you go down to our houses. We don't want to look like, you know, a big warehouse zone surrounding us. And as far as that, what'd you say, a zero line?
Zero lot line.
That's 5 feet from my front door. 5 feet. And I would just ask, again, you know, put yourself in my shoes. Would any of y'all vote to have commercial property with a big building 5 feet from your front door or from your mother's front door?
Is your zero lot line on the north side of your house or the south side?
South side. And I mean, you can look in the picture of the two houses that are currently there, and you can see on the other side, that's where 2 more lots were, that he currently still has for sale signs in. That tree line that goes around as a fence line where trees have grown up, that's not my line. My line is, I mean, if you look at that house, the first house, and it looks like a black line running down the bottom, that's my fence. That's the zero line.
That lot looks pretty.
So how much room, you've got a zero on the south side, what's the room between you and the neighbor on the north side?
Zero.
Both of them are zero?
We share a fence, we got about this much room between our driveway.
Most zero lot lines I've seen that has a zero on one side of the property, and then they
Okay,
have a little
2
bit of.
feet.
Huh.
But you don't know.
You know, we're pretty boxed in there. And again, I'm just going by what's fair. We were sold on a great Marwood Gardens home edition. We bought into that. And for Mr. Dorman, and he, of course, by all testimony, he already came and got y'all to change it once to bring his land to the next highest value, which we took, you know, paid him for. And now he's trying to get another bite at it, which, you know, again, this deal is not contingent on that, from what Mr. Dorman has told us. So really, I ask y'all to put yourselves in our shoes and say, would you want that 5 feet from your front?
Mr. Halliburton, say you're maintaining your house and you're on the south side and they put a fence, you know, just inside their property line. What's the room between there and your house?
5 feet.
Okay.
When those homes were put in there, was the land brought up some?
We didn't flood, so I mean.
You didn't flood at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I wanted to know that. Did you flood?
Well, I mean, again, that's another concern. You build that land up, you know, who knows? Yeah, we were an island. We were an island. I mean, we couldn't get out. And again, y'all have got signs, the city does, says no through trucks on that, on 2-lane already. That is just totally ignored because those warehouses come out on it, trucks, you know, hundreds of them a day. But again, I'm just wanting to, A, maintain the value of our property, and B, maintain the integrity of a neighborhood that we bought and that we all lived in. And it is a quality of life issue for us. And we would just ask that y'all respect that. And pardon my attire, I just came in from a softball game, so.
Did y'all win?
We actually did, but I'll tell you, I knew I had to get back from Dallas, and I was driving like crazy to get here for this, so I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to speak to y'all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Halliburton. Is there anyone else that would like to address? Please state your name and address.
My name is Gary Seaton, and I live at 360 Old Timers Road. From what I want to say, would it be permissible for me to point out some things on that, that picture up there? I think maybe you all can understand some of this a little better if I could draw it up there. As we understand it from Mr. Dorman, this corner right here of Martin Luther King and 2 Lane is the property he has sold for the business. he told us, when someone said to him, well, why don't you go somewhere else? He said, well, the people that are buying the property, they want this corner right here because they can have access to two roads and go two different ways. But what everyone is ignoring is the fact that right here, there is a sign that says no truck traffic. And these people at these warehouses are very careful not to go down there. They come down Martin Luther King, come over here and go in, turn around and go back. Over on Tulane, where it's at 62, there's another sign that says no truck traffic. So if Mr. Gorman sells this tract of land right here, the only access will be Martin Luther King. And so that's different than what he told us about the reason he was selling that property and why the people want to buy it.
Does it say no through traffic?
It says no
Almost
truck traffic.
Okay.
And if for some reason,
Is it only at this end though? So that means that the traffic can actually go past?
They're not allowed to go,
they're not allowed
to
to
go
go
up
past
down
here.
to 62. They're not allowed to. That's why it's.
But if for some reason that no truck traffic was enforced, 2-lane out, as you go out to 62 is in horrible traffic. And if trucks keep running up and down there, you're gonna be spending a lot of money to rebuild that street and that road.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Childs had a question for
Mr. Halliburton.
Mr. Halliburton.
That's been answered.
Oh, it's been answered, okay. All right, and anyone else like to address, speaking while we were in public hearing?
Is this your paper? My name is Woodrow Dorman. I live at 4679 Old Highway 87. I was born in Port Arthur, but I raised my children in Roselawn Addition in Orange. And what we're asking, what the application for today is, we are asking the city council to rezone a 120-foot by 400-foot strip along Old Timers Road from R3 to C2. Now, we're very, very, very fortunate to have a company that's willing to come to Orange, build a multi-million-dollar building with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment in it, and they rebuild electric motors, and their direct competitor is Sulzer, and they are an environmentally clean company, and they are going to be hiring probably 25 to 35 good-paying electrician jobs. They're going to be, they expect to pay the normal taxes. They will be paying taxes on the land. They'll be paying taxes on the building. They'll be paying personal property taxes on every piece of equipment inside the building. Plus, every motor that goes through that place, the company that sends it through will be paying sales tax. So the city of Orange will be getting all those taxes. Now, I think I would like if you give me a minute to address some of the things that were said, that more or less negative things were said. Of course, we own the land, so we're going to say everything we can positive about this change in zoning. Do you have a little arrow thing? Do you have a little thing that I can point
that wants to come to Orange wants to buy a 6-acre tract in that square right there. That 6-acre tract, 20% of that 6-acre tract along here is zoned R3. The rest of the land is zoned C2. In fact, it's C2 all the way up to Arbor Pines, all the way across, and all the way down directly behind these little 4-lot subdivision. Now, just to comment on the subdivision, in 2004, I realized that I had nothing to do with it, but I realized that for some reason, instead of stopping at Old Timers Road, they extended R3. When the city took over, when the Browns sold the land and the city of Orange took over, it became annexed into Orange. And around 2002, they annexed everything. And Jimmy Lewis and the city council at that time saw that Martin Luther King was a commercial corridor. And so they made everything along that corridor C2. I don't know how it happened, but somehow, instead of making C2 all the way to Old Timers Road, the last 120 feet, it lapped over to R3. Well, in 2004, I said, well, maybe there's a possibility that you could develop into multifamily. So I went to the city and I developed a little 4-lot subdivision, and I built 2 houses. I was able to sell them right after Hurricane Rita and the 2007 stock market crash. The real estate in that area dropped to nothing. I've tried to sell those other two lots for 13 years, practically offering to give them away, and nobody will buy them. I'm thoroughly convinced that that land will never develop. That 1.2 acres along Old Timer will never develop into residential property. This company's come along. They drew what they wanted. I told them that I would go to the council. I would fill out the application. I would go to the council and ask that it be zoned C2. They don't want to infringe on the R3 property. They want it to be C2, which I don't blame them. Now, it's possible that they could build directly behind those houses, all the way up directly behind those houses, buy that land. But I was encouraging them to build as far away from Arbor Pines and as far away from the little subdivision as possible, which means that they would be building down closer to Martin Luther King and Tulane. Now, I've never seen an 18-wheeler going in and out of Sulcer. They use the little work trucks, and they use the 250s and stuff that they don't use the 18-wheelers. All the 18-wheelers come out of the Wilson warehouses. Now, it's only fair to state that all this land from here, all the way around here, all the way up here, is all C2. All the way from here, all the way up is C2. It's not like you're rezoning an acre of land that's going to be residential. It's never going to be residential, and it's completely on three sides C2 property. Now, during the planning and zoning meeting, Mr. Cullen Smith asked this question. Roselawn subdivision is located right here, right there. And there's about 40 homes within 100 yards of Sulcer. They've been there for 50 years. Sulcer's been there for 15 years. Mr. Smith, Cullen Smith asked Mr. Koff if there had ever been a complaint for noise from any of those 45, 50 homes in Roselawn. He said to his knowledge there's never been a noise complaint. And they're only 100 yards from Sulcer. So I believe that the noise on this new project, this new business, is going to be the same as Sulcer. I don't think it's going to be a noise problem. It should not be a noise problem. Luckily, we have two representatives from the company here tonight, the COO, Mr. Brad Bennett, and we have Mr. Patrick McHenry, who actually was the spearhead to get this business here in Orange. He lives in Pinehurst. He was the first guy to contact me. He was responsible to bring the owners down, and they love the property. They say it's just what they want. It's central. Their home headquarters is in Shreveport. They have a facility in Dallas, and this facility will be their Gulf Coast central service area. And they can serve, luckily Orange is in the middle. They can serve all of Jefferson County and all the way to Lake Charles in that area. So it's a great chance for Orange, City of Orange, to get a fine business facility at a time when we are hurting so much for any kind of tax revenue, jobs. It's just a great win-win situation for Orange. Now, it's true that we have 3 residences that are affected, or close. Cullen Smith said in the meeting he doesn't know of another 6-acre tract around in the city of Orange that would have that few people affected. I've read Mrs. Beecham's campaign. She will probably be our next county commissioner for Precinct 2. I've read her campaign ads, and a week and a half before this meeting, her ad stated how much Orange needed growth, how there was a negative 6% growth in Orange before Harvey, and we need to go out, no matter what it takes, to go nationally and locally to find any kind of business that will come to the Orange. I truly believe that Mrs. Beecham, if it was not in her neighborhood, she would want it really bad. But because it's in her neighborhood, it's like not in my backyard. And I understand what she's saying, but it's a great opportunity for Orange. I would like to, I don't know if you'd like to ask a question of the company reps or not, but I can't tell you too much about the company other than it's similar. Sulcer is their competitor, and they want to come to Orange.
I got a quick question to you for Mr. Dorman. Do you own the whole strip along MLK, all the way up to the...
Arbor Pines, yes.
You do?
And it's all C2.
And how many acres is that?
There's 15 acres left of the original 26-acre tract. Arbor Pines bought 9. I think there's 14 or 15 left. There a church bought on the other side of Arbor Pines, Maranatha Church.
But from the Pines over to Tulane is how many acres?
From Arbor Pines down Martin Luther King all the way to Tulane over to Old Timers Road is approximately 14 to 15 acres.
Okay, thank you.
And do they only need 6 acres?
And it's all C2 except that one little 1.2 acre strip along there.
Mr. Dorman, do they only need 6 acres?
I'm sorry, huh?
Do they only need 6 acres?
They drew the map, that I gave them, they drew the map and told me what they wanted.
I understand, but do they only need 6 acres?
I'm thinking, now Sulcer's on 3 acres. They bought 2 acres from me originally and came back and bought another acre in the back because they needed some parking. But
I understand that, but the company wants to come in, do they only need 6 acres?
As far as I know, they only need 6 acres right now.
You said that the company's here, right?
Ma'am.
Can we hear from you?
Yeah, Mr. Brad
I have a
Bennett.
question for Mr.
Brad
Dorman,
Bennett
though.
is the COO of the company, and he can tell you more what they want to know.
Mr.
Terry's got one
Dorman,
for
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Back when you proposed doing these garden homes, for the Morewood garden homes, what, was it only 4?
Yes, it was. I never intended to do anything but those 4 lots.
What
to
caused
see
you
if-
not to complete that task?
The reason that I couldn't, the Seatons purchased right before Hurricane Rita, and Mrs. Halliburton's house was destroyed in Hurricane Rita, and so she bought right after Hurricane Rita. And I don't know if you remember, but the real estate market just kind of collapsed after that.
That's not what you told me in my driveway. You told me there would be 18 homes out there with a homeowners association, and everything was going to buy.
Could you come and speak in the mic? And state your name, please, so we know who you are.
My name is Joy Seaton. I live at
Can you pull the mic down a little bit? Thank you.
My name is Joy Seaton. I live at 360 Old Timers Road.
Yes, ma'am.
When we bought that, when we were talking to Mr. Dorman about that, we stood right in my driveway. He said, we're going to have 18 homes out here. We're going to have a homeowners association. We're going to have a walking trail. We're going to have all this. We put all we had into that home. We have redone that home several times because of the quality of it. I don't understand how somebody can do that and promise what he promised us and then just walk off and sell it. And here we are, stranded. We cannot use our driveway when it rains. Why? Because the house next door is higher than ours. That's the way it was built. We cannot use it.
Mr. Dorman, when you came to the city, well, he's not listening. Thank you.
Was, one of y'all fixing to speak?
I still have questions for Mr. Dorman, and
Yeah.
I think she does too.
When you came to the city and you proposed, you just said 4. You came to the city and stated what the plans were for that neighborhood, for the garden homes. You said 18, right?
We would have never bought for 4 homes. That's ridiculous.
We were told they'd go all the way down.
The reason that,
Just like I said.
the reason that in Orange, to build a home, you have to have a subdivision plat. And the reason that I could build a subdivision, a 4-lot subdivision, it was an area that I didn't know anything about, but I knew that all the lots faced Old Timers Road, and so consequently, you did not get involved in the rain gutters, sewer gutters, curb streets, and everything. There was 4 lots directly on. Now, fortunately, for some reason, there is the land that Mrs. Teresa Bishop's properties own, and this land is the highest land elevation-wise south of the interstate in Orange County. It's like 17.5 feet. There's no ditches on either side of their land has there's no drainage ditches because it's so high, the water drains in every direction away from it. So it's not like they're in danger of any water It's just too high. I never want to call anybody a liar, but I never promised anything about any 18 homes. I mean, if everything would have went well, it's a possibility I could have started another 4 lots of, but I never would have built 18. There's no way I would have ever started anything like that, ever.
Mr. Dorman, I'm sorry, Terry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Dorman, last week, Councilman Salter and I rode with you in this area, and you mapped out the location. In doing so, you gave me a map with my name on it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also in doing so, you made the statement that you were giving us a corrected map from what you had given earlier in planning and zoning. What is the difference between that map that they approved you for and this?
Well, the maps that I gave planning and zoning was a little hand-drawn map that I drew myself. It didn't have any topographical trees or anything, and I felt like, I also gave one to Brad Childs.
Yes,
I felt like it wasn't a fair presentation of the property. We needed a bigger map that showed a wider area, and I said, well, I can't do that. So I went to the city, and the engineer for the city graciously made these 8 maps for me, and I had one for all city council and one for Mr. Knopf. And I may have made a mistake on one area. He pointed out that where the Wilson warehouses are, it's industrial. I think industrial is even more industrial than C2, right?
It's a more intense land use.
In other words, an industrial is even more intense industry than C2. There's things that can go in industrial, like those warehouses, that can't go in C2.
Well,
I apologize for
this
that.
map. So other than doing a topical map, is there any difference? I want to make sure we're matching apples for apples. Is there any difference in this map than what the planning and zoning was?
No, it's the same map.
It's the
The
same
property
map.
that's in question is 1.26 acres, which is 20% of the land that this company wants to purchase, 20%. 80% of it is already C2. We wouldn't even have to come to the city.
When you gave it to me, you said you made a proper map.
It's
So I
just
thought maybe you corrected something.
No, I didn't. No, I just felt like that the city council needed a better map than what I.
It was actually hand-drawn that you gave them, and this one's actually a picture, an aerial picture, photograph, right?
But I also, I had smaller ones just like that, that I took the liberty of asking every member of the Planning and Zoning Commission to come with me, drive with me out to the property, which almost all of them did, and I showed them physically where it was. And I had these litter maps here. I had these litter maps here, which was sent out to everybody that we looked at. Okay. It's just that I first thought that maybe a hand-drawn map would be good enough, but I think they knew what they were looking for. I physically showed it to every one of them. Okay. Just like I also offered every member of the city council a chance to go out there. I would take them out there and physically show them every one of them.
All right.
Most went, but a couple of them was too busy.
Mr. Dorman, I have a question as far as when was the first home built? And I want to know the time frame from when the first home and the second home was built, because I want to understand why the time, why it would take so long and only have 2 homes if you were supposed to be building 4. So we can have a big picture on this.
The first home, I think, was built in 2005.
Okay.
Hurricane Rita hit in 2005. No, let me take it. The first home was built at the end of 2004, and the second home was built, and it was sold to Mr. Seaton. And then
Okay.
the second home was built just before Hurricane Rita, and it was finished, just like a month before Hurricane Rita. So they were
Okay.
built one right after the other.
Okay.
Within a couple of months.
Our house that we bought had been built and sat there for a year before we bought it, but we couldn't sell it.
And our house was not even finished when we bought it. We got to go in and pick paint, put flooring and all that.
It's like the next year, though, from when they moved?
Yeah, I didn't know when they bought it. This house is advertised, brand new construction. We go in, Mr. Dorman says, I'll put over all this, whatever you pick it, we'll put the fence up. I mean, when he finished. And then there was 2 lots with pads on them. It gave the impression that more houses are coming.
And she lived with us for 6 months after the storm, and that's when she moved into the house, it was after 6 months after the hurricane.
I think
So that was probably in the first of the year, 2006.
Mr. Mello asked a question about the zero. That is on the north side, and the distance from this property line and his house is about 12 feet. It's on the side that's got the most property. It's not on the zero first side like it implied.
I saw my state yesterday, and it was, my sidewalk is only 3 feet wide. And then I have a little flower bed that's another 2 feet. That's 5 feet. The state is drowning in service now. And if you said I got 12 more feet, let's redraw the line.
Mr. Knopf, I have a question for you. Could we go back one map, please? This is probably not having to do it. Can you enlighten me what MUZD is?
MUZD is called the mixed-use zoning district, and the mixed-use zoning district does not have set regulations in it. When we create that mixed-use zoning district, we create the regulations for that district, like setback requirements, height requirements, landscaping requirements, all the other things. It's a very flexible zoning district. Now, back a lot of times when the city did this, and this was done, a long time ago, maybe early 90s, late 80s sometime, they zoned property MUZD, but they didn't create the development plan and the regulations for that. Okay, we have since done some of those, but that's what the mixed-use zoning district is it's a specific zoning for that property,
And
for
it's
that
not,
area.
it's not really relative to our situation.
It can be either commercial or residential or a combination of both.
Okay.
May I come to the? My daddy always told me not to ever call anybody a liar. So I'm not gonna call Mr. Dorman a liar. I'm just gonna tell you he's not telling the truth. And I think all of you have seen that tonight. The planning and zoning see one map, y'all see another map. He takes people for a ride, and he tells them and fills their ear with the stuff that he's saying tonight. Wobbly, waffly, the whole thing. All of us have lived there, we have lived it. He has told us what was going to happen there. He has not held to those restrictions. He's just never done anything. He doesn't want to spend his money to put in streets and gutters. And we all know that from being on the council. When people come for a subdivision, they have to, that's part of it. He doesn't want to do that. He ties it in to Old Timers Road. Their driveways are about, I'm telling you how short they are. And the road is so narrow, and when a truck has to come, if it's a pickup truck, I'm not talking about. And Wilson Warehouse, if you went with Mr. Dorman, it's way back off the road. Those trucks and everything, they have a lot to get straightened up and emptied out, and it's way away from us. It's not in our backyard. Then they can get out on 2-lane, which is when that big truck comes, it goes to MLK, and nothing else can go by the sidewalk. I don't appreciate him telling me about EDC. I've lived it with the council, and I propose it for the county of Orange now. But I also cannot forget that people have a quality of life and have been promised and developed what these people have done, and without him needing it, because he owns the land, but he might not get quite as much money for it. He might have to sell a little bit of something else to get this corner to ruin their property and never develop his. How many times, Mr. Knopf, and maybe you don't know about this, the city, we close our eyes to it, we do as much as we can until the grass gets about this high on his property, right by the side of the Seatons. Ms. Seaton has called him personally and asked him to come have it mowed. Because many times, because it's full, when you get grass like that, snakes, rats, everything else gets in. And he is responsible for that, just like other land all over the city. And you have to keep it, if it gets over 2 feet, you have to have it mowed. Well, he doesn't do that. Until finally, when Miss Seaton gets tired of calling him out of the courtesy of calling him, and we call the city. They come out and they look at it and they tell him he's gonna get fined if he doesn't mow it. So that's money, so he mows it. The water, and I don't know exactly how this works. My parents, when they built that house, and that's been there a long, long time. Dr. Pierce. And Dr. Pierce had that property before my parents had that. I mean, I can't tell you, it probably goes back 70 years. We had a septic system. My mom she got tired of the septic system real quick. So my parents paid for a sewer system to be put in out there. The sewer, it says in the middle of Little Old Timers Road. Guess what he did when he built his house? Because it saves him money. He just didn't ask permission, anything. He just tied into our sewer system. We didn't say anything. Because we have neighbors that are nice and they take care of their property. And now we're going to, because of him being selfish, greedy, I don't know what you want to call it, is going to go back on his word to all of those people there on their homes and butt up a business that's going to make them, not only butt up the business and make it, the electrical engines and all that, it makes noise, Mr. Dorman. You live on 87 and you live behind a funeral home, so it doesn't make much noise. But we don't. So, and Cullen Smith lives off 87 too. So whatever you fed him, I don't know. But he doesn't live over there by it either. And you might come down that road, I see your black Continental driving down that road occasionally on a Sunday afternoon. A Sunday afternoon, that business isn't working, Mr. Dorman. And you are going to have to face the fact that this is ruled residential on this side, and the other side is commercial, and you can do whatever you deem that you can get away with doing over there. I don't have anything to say about it, and they don't either. But we're going to clear some of this up. Because you have stood up here, you told the P&Z one thing and showed them one map and taken them and filled their ear with no telling what, because what you said in front of all of us, and I know is not the truth, and they know is not the truth, then, now you're doing this. You cannot be allowed to get away with this.
Good evening, long evening. Colleen Halliburton, 350 Old Timers Road. I would like to say that I had spoke with Mr. Dorman the night before the zoning meeting and asked him the question, is this a deal killer if you do take up that little strip that's, if any of you who did drive through, you see when you enter Old Timers Road from Tulane, it's trees. It's a nice entryway to our neighborhood. It's not concrete right up to the road. So I asked him if it was a deal breaker. He said, no, it would not be a deal breaker. You have people from the company. Is it a deal breaker?
It possibly could be, yes.
Based on what?
Based on.
Could he come to the mic, please?
No, why do you have to have that little strip?
Well, our intentions are to purchase 5 acres of land, roughly 5 acres for the size of business that we need. We don't potentially need all 5 acres to do what we're going to do, but we're going to be investing millions of dollars in the facility. We want to be able to have the opportunity, if the business grows as we hope it does, and we bring business into the city of Orange, that we will have the potential to build contiguous to where we are beginning our operation, to have the ability to grow our business. We may never build on the entire 5 acres, but if we're going to invest millions of dollars into a facility here, we want the opportunity to be able to grow to the size of our business grows. If we can't get the entire 5 acres, it could possibly be a deal breaker for us, yes.
Well, that was the reason why I asked that question.
Yourself?
My name is Brad Bennett. I live at 1004 Conti Circle Drive in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Etheridge Electric Company.
That was the reason why I asked, did you need all 6 acres? If he has 12 plus acres on MLK, do you have to be on that corner?
We prefer the corner of MLK and Tulane. Our intention is for us, huh? I can answer the question. I heard what she said. I'll answer it. Thank you. Our intention is to build close to the corner of MLK and Tulane. Okay. We don't intend to have any entrances off of the Old Timers Road.
That was my question.
Our intentions are that we will enter. We possibly would like to have an entrance off of the Tulane Road. The majority of our traffic is going to be 1-ton flatbed vehicles and pickup trucks. And, we do have 18-wheelers from time to time that we may have to, bring a motor in from time to time. But I'd say 90% of our business is transported on 1-ton flatbed trucks.
So to be on Tulane, you just want to be on Tulane. Do you have to be on Tulane?
It's preferable to have two side entrances for the way.
Okay, but
yes.
do you have to be on Tulane? We're talking about people's lives.
I understand.
And I don't care if it's only 2 people sitting out there. We're talking about 2 people. Mm-hmm. And 2 people is just as important as 10 people. Mm-hmm. 10 people is just as important as 20, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to say that one side is telling the truth and the other side is telling a lie. Mm-hmm. But there is a word that you can break down. It's called compromise. Is there any way to compromise so that both sides can be happy? And, not to interject myself into this, but my husband and I looked at those 2 vacant lots. And one of the reasons why we didn't buy them was for this very reason. What if that commercial was developed? I wouldn't want to live there. So is there any way that we can compromise? Because if it's more than 5 acres available, is there any way to compromise so you can get what you want and they can have the quality of life that they need at this point in their life?
Sure. Can I address a couple things that's been said tonight?
Hold on just a second. The issue before the council, unfortunately, part of the law is either up or down tonight. The council cannot compromise it and do something else. You either have to vote it up or you vote it down.
I understand that. I was asking him the question. I know what I need to do, but I needed to ask him that question.
Everybody else that
yes.
knows that.
Sure.
They're going to be a different way. They have to make it between themselves. Obviously, it just has to be an up or down vote.
Well, one of the things I think that's a big piece here is that a lot of people have talked about the noise and the recording that was played earlier. Our facility you know, we have in Shreveport 50 to 65 employees in Shreveport, and we, you know, if you have a noisy facility, we're an industrial business, so we're regulated by OSHA, and if your decibel level gets to a certain level, you have to wear ear protection. We don't have to wear ear protection inside the building where the work's being done. It can't be too loud to where it's, you know, I mean, if we're running a motor in our facility, you can't hear it external to the building. I don't know what Sulcer was doing. They're not exactly the same business as we are. They do a lot of the same things. They may have some different equipment that we have, but the facilities that we have, you can't, I mean, you're going to have a truck that may come in and, you know, just like the trucks that are across the street that are traveling in and they're setting their brakes, you may hear those things from time to time, but the actual business of what we do is not an externally noisy business. So from a compromising standpoint, if we built the building, you know, on the already commercially zoned property, you're only talking about 120 feet from where what's already zoned that's not residentially zoned. You know, you're not gonna, I don't personally believe that you're gonna have a difference in noise level from that, what's already zoned C2, if we built the building on the residential, if it were to be rezoned. It's not, we don't have a noisy business. It's just not noisy. I don't know what Sulcer's doing to make the noise, but the most noise you're going to hear from us is going to be a vehicle traveling down the road.
Did you say your entryway would be on 2-lane?
We would prefer to have an entryway from MLK and 2-lane. We want to have multiple entryways. Yes.
Mr. Bennett, you would have that no matter what?
Yes. Yes. And that's why we want the 2 road frontages, so we could have entrance from 2 different locations.
The City of Orange wants your business. I want you to be assured of that. And I'm sure that you probably talked about other options with Mr. Dorman. Is that true?
We've discussed, you know, with his entire property line there, yes, we've discussed different options he's brought to the table. That's certain.
You're right, the noise levels could be the same one way or the other, but you do have 2-lane, you do have MLK, and so we would love to have you on that corner, but I'm wondering what the other options are that y'all have, and maybe we can't talk about that.
Well, one of the, do you mind if I talk about the agriculture? Okay. One of the dilemmas that we had is that he has an agriculture exemption for tax purposes on the property, and if we purchase just the 4 acres and not the acre in the back, then he won't have contiguous property to have the agriculture exemption on, so his taxes are going to go up on that piece of property. So that was one of the reasons that he had asked us to purchase that. You know, we originally wanted to purchase the whole land, but when we were determined, because we want 5 acres, you know, the other option would be that we could purchase 5 acres worth, but then he would have less than the amount of acreage that he would be able to retain the agriculture exemption on the rest of the property. So that's why we focused in on to the 1 point.
You have to have 10 acres now in Orange County, best as I recall, for ag exempt now, not 5.
Brad,
Yes, sir.
are you planning on building the building on that strip of land, the 120-foot wide strip?
No, our intentions are to build the property, or to build the facility on the corner.
Do you have a plat plan? Do you have any kind of plat already done?
No. Well, we have some rough sketches of what we're intending to build. It's a 20,000 square foot facility.
Did you bring a rough sketch?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay. Now, on a commercial piece of property, you have to build an 8-foot fence, is that correct? The 8-foot fence on the,
Not on the C2. A C2 is a minimum 6 foot with a maximum of 8 feet.
Oh,
The CS zoning
minimum
on
of 6 to 8 feet, okay.
Right. Yeah, no, the CS zoning along 16th Street is an 8-foot fence on a commercial next to residential, but not on a C2 zone.
So whenever you do your fence, would it be privacy or would it be an open fence?
I'm getting ready to bring it up.
Whatever the requirement is, we wouldn't be opposed to putting the privacy fence. We're actually not even proposing, there's on that back road of Old Timers Road, there's a lot of trees and brush that's grown up on that. We're not even intending on clearing that area at this point in time. The only reason we would, you know, if we're going to purchase the property, the residential zone property is not does not help us, benefit us at all if we purchase that. I mean, we can't do anything with that as a business. So, you know, for us to invest the money in that property, we want it to all be commercially zoned so that we can do what we need to if the time came up where we expanded into that. Our intentions, though, you know, we have Shreveport, our facility is 53,000 square feet, and we do a tremendous amount of business in Shreveport. We intend to do, you know, in the beginning stages, we intend to have we currently have about $2.5 million worth of business that's in this area that we're servicing that in the Tyler, Texas Service Center. As soon as we open the facility in this area, that business is going to come here, and we have, you know, estimated that we could possibly get to the $10 to $15 million a year in revenue out of this service center. You know, a 20,000 square foot building may be big enough to satisfy that for the history of our company, but it may not. We may need to grow. We may need to, you know, I don't anticipate our facility growing past the size of the one in Shreveport, but you know, there's a lot of business in the Gulf State region that we intend to capture. So
go ahead. Did you see have cows on that property? Because it looks like a pasture whenever I went out there.
There's some cows.
It's a pasture. It belonged to the Brown estate. They never
Right.
allowed any kind of anything on that land. It's always been virgin pasture land.
Okay. But did you have cows on it right now?
Ed Granger has a lease.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's got some of my land.
Mr. Bennett, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
From the beginning, your dealings with Mr. Dorman, have you always understood that you could only access that corner only one direction in and one direction out? Because geographically, you could go down that road and go to 62, then you could wiggle around and end up on 87, and then the third being 10, which makes it pretty unique geographically, but are you aware that you can't do that? You can only go one way in, one way out?
yes, I'm aware of that.
Because, I mean, they mentioned earlier about the signs, but... Sure.
The reason we want the two road frontages is not for access one way or the other. It's mainly for the entrance into our facility. You know, we have a flow, I guess is the best way to put it, where something's going to come in one door and go out another door. So you have a motor that needs to be repaired that's going to come in one side, and a clean motor that's restored going out the other way. So it doesn't, we can't go in and out the same way. So we need multiple entrances. So to have the two road frontages, we would have those multiple entrances, or an entrance and an exit, you know.
You said 90% of your trucks are 1 ton or less, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think that.
Doesn't apply to
We have
truck route.
We have 3 ton.
It doesn't apply to the truck route.
We have 3-ton trucks, and we have one 18-wheeler within the company. You know, I'd say we run the 18-wheeler with our 2 facilities one in Texas and Shreveport. We run the 18-wheeler a couple of times a month, and that's with those 2 facilities. The market in this area doesn't have the large motors that require that 18-wheeler as much as the market. We're in the paper industry and in the Shreveport and the steel industry up there. So, you know, the majority of the I mean, seriously, I think 90% is a pretty good number. We have 4 truck drivers in Shreveport, and they're in 1 tons virtually every day. So
the only other major concern I have from listening to the people that live there is the elevation and the flooding. What assurance would they ever have indefinitely on the land that we're talking about, not C2, but that land, that you would ever raise it and would just flood them out?
we certainly don't have intentions of destroying property with our neighbors. You know, I'm not a construction engineer, so I'm not real sure what would be required to build a steel building. But I mean, we don't have any intentions of we're not going to have docks, so we're not going to have to be elevated to the point where we have a truck dock that you're backing in. We're going to be ground level, so no more than what you would have to build you know, if you're going to build a house, you know, just to build the foundation for a house.
Mayor, his site plan would have to show where it's going to sheet drain too. That would have to be approved by the city.
Yeah.
Ms. Dunn and I have 2 points of clarification for you. Are you buying 6 or 5 acres? Because it's been told to us the whole time 6.
It's 5 point, what's the actual size?
Actually, it hasn't been surveyed yet. My son and I went out and physically measured it with a tape, and we think it's about 5.7 acres, but it could be less than it. The square that they drew could be less than that, or it could be a little more than that. We estimated 5 point, I call it 6, but actually they're wanting to buy, in their mind, they're buying 5 acre tract.
Okay.
But
Mr. Dorman, I'm
we
glad
both
you got
agree
up
that it
there
could be
because
more than that.
I'm going to have a question for both of you for clarification. And I want the council to pay particular attention to this. Now, Mr. Dorman, you have told me in person, and you have also told the planning and zoning that they drew a map and it was their decision what land they wanted. Now, Mr. Dunnan just testified to the fact that you asked him to buy that parcel, to include it. Which way is it?
The map that was sent to me by Carissa Tinsley, who is the realtor that's handling the deal, this email to me was the exact square that I showed you, including.
Let me make it easier. Did you or did you not ask Mr. Dunnan to purchase that part?
No.
Okay,
That's what
thank
he
you very
drew.
much.
That's what he drew.
Mayor, I have a
And I'd like to say one other thing. Sometime during our discussion, there was a mention of buying the land directly behind the 4 houses. It goes right up against the land. The C2 is right to their back fence line. There was a possibility of going up that way instead of, if it wasn't going to be enough land for them. I didn't encourage that because I wanted to keep any kind of commercial growth as close as we could to the Martin Luther King and Tulane Road, and not so close to Arbor Pines, which is a senior living area, and definitely not directly bordering those 4 lots and directly across the street from Mrs. Beecham's. I tried every way I could to make this company, get this company to come to us, but at the same time, save as much headache as possible from the 4.
Mr. Dunnan, you're in my district, and I agree with Brad. We would no more love to have you in our city. But we have to look at all aspects. But, you know, we're willing to work, but like the attorney said, it's a yes or no. So, Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to read something.
Like the what?
Like to read something.
Can I ask something real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're not going behind their houses? Y'all aren't gonna be up to there?
If we just do what they drew, they will not be behind the houses, so there will be no touching the back of the
Okay, do I have a picture of what they drew somewhere? That is
Mr. Dorman, well, what is his name?
I have
Dunnan.
What is it?
Dunnan.
Dunny?
Have you seen it?
Bennett.
Bennett?
Bennett.
My question to Mr. Dorman and to you as well, that was when he was just speaking about going up MLK a little bit. They wouldn't be that close to that senior living area with, looking at the size?
If we went just down MLK
Yes.
and gave up the Old Timers Road
Yes.
area, we would be, the property that we would be purchasing would be directly behind the residential, the houses.
At the
there.
end of the day, that's residential, that's commercial anyway. And so at some point in time, someone will put something there anyway. So I don't know if that doesn't really make a difference.
Y'all are okay with that?
Wait a minute.
To have the facility right behind your home is okay?
No, it's only 120 feet, I measured it.
It's 120 feet behind
No.
It's from the road.
from the road.
It's directly, and on your back fence line is directly connected to C2.
Knowing that. We also
Right.
know we have residential.
That's what I'm saying. So either way it goes, you can't do anything about that. It's already C2. So would that pose a problem? Could your company utilize some of that land?
Mr. Bennett, you have their blessing to build right behind them. So
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a doable situation for us.
we can't
but
make
the
that
seller-
deal here,
right.
but you just heard that you have their blessing to build right behind them.
I understand, that, and I'm not opposed to doing that, but he may not want to sell the land that way, because that gets into
It
his.
makes
We
it
can't
harder for him to
protect
sell
we
the
can't.
other.
Sure, sure.
But that's,
So, I mean, that
y'all's issue.
may be a deal killer from his side of the thing, but from us, yes, we would, I mean, that wouldn't pose a problem for us. We would get the 2-lane and the MLK frontage roads, and we would be able to get the amount of property that we intend to purchase.
Well, we would love to have you here, but we do have to always look at all aspects of
Sure.
all deals. And it needs to be the right deal for everyone,
Sure.
you know?
And Mr. Bennett, I just want to clarify, because several times you said, at this time, we might not use that. Or when it comes up, we might need it and we'll use that. Or we have no plans at this time. And the real winner is his property tax. I'm not worried about his property tax.
Well, I'm just trying to state the fact.
And you're not worried about his property tax?
Sure.
I have one thing to say, with regards to the trees. I met a gentleman out in my front yard several weeks ago that was spraying utility lines down the road. And of course, since Mr. Dorman owns most of my front yard, they came in there and I'm like, what are you doing? They're fixing to cut all the trees down.
We
Not me, you.
yeah, we haven't, we don't own the property, so we haven't done anything with the
I'm just
property.
saying, you can't say that's not gonna happen because somebody's asking to do it.
No,
We do know that the city gave, that the city did was pull this R3 and this C2. We do know that, that's a fact.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna go try to change it in this street, and all of it's like up in the air, like, we don't have to take it down, but we're not. And it's 5 feet from his front door. It doesn't make, it's not, I don't think that he can do the things like that. And Mr. Norman.
Ms. Beecham, as our new commissioner,
Yes, sir.
you do give them the blessing to bring EDC and development
But
on,
not to ruin people's.
no, on the existing property that's zoned for it.
That's for the existing
Yes.
zone for, which is the
C2
C2 over there.
on MLK.
I give them permission.
So you have her blessing too to come on that road.
And as Mr. Bennett, I appreciate your answering those questions very honestly about, it's okay if you don't take that residential section. We need those jobs. We're not fighting.
We're not fighting.
We want you here.
We're not fighting. If we keep the zone the way it is.
I was expecting a shake.
That's right.
I want to ask Mr. Knoll a question.
Can we go home?
If they bought the piece of property and bought it as residential use, and then they own the piece that's for commercial use, could they use it to put entrance or a drive still with it being residential?
Yes, because it's one parcel of property, but it's 2 different zoning classifications. So even, they could potentially build, a driveway, They could have their commercial business and everything in the commercial section of that property. But they
Just
could
not
extend the
on
driveway because a driveway is not a commercial use.
Commercial.
There's no SIC code for a driveway.
Okay, so then they could buy it as long as they didn't build a commercial building on it?
Right, or do any other commercial activity, out of
Yeah,
a,
they couldn't be out there with.
out of a shed or a tent or anything like that.
It's still be zoned R3. They can buy it, but it's still owned part of the
Yeah,
zone.
they wouldn't be able to take fork trucks and put the motors out there and store them.
No, that would be a commercial activity,
They could still use it for entrance, so.
Right, they could, but they couldn't use that for their commercial storage, for instance, you know, of
Right.
materials or supplies.
Yeah, so the 120 foot could be used for a driveway, but it can't be used for.
For a commercial activity.
They need that driveway anyway.
Mayor, I'm going to read a statement about this, about my opinion of it, and then I have no further questions. I'm going to read it because I'm getting old. My memory's not as good. Mayor, council, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'm speaking for myself and not the other council and the mayor. But it's in my district, and I felt I had to address it. I would first like to thank planning and zoning members for accepting this proposal and forwarding it to the council for our approval. They had separate qualifications kind of from us, and they did their job, and I'm proud of them. If we choose to go with them, that's fine. If we choose to go against them, that's not saying they were wrong. I have rode with Mr. Dorman along with Councilwoman Terry Salter. We drove around the area and he explained his side of this. I looked and listened and I weighed in everything he said. After the planning and zoning meeting, Mr. Dorman informed me that he had spoken to his client and expressed concerns whether the council would approve of changing the zoning classification from R3 to C2. During this conversation, it was relayed to Mr. Dorman that they would purchase the land and build the business either way. I would like to thank Mr. Dorman for discussing that issue with the company. This was probably assisted by the email assistance of possible incentives that Jay Trahan sent to them. Thank you, Jay, for that. I'm understanding that the company was very interested in the thing that Mr. Trahan sent them. Now, I've also spoken to some of the residents involved, and I can also see their side. As council members and mayor, we have to consider both sides. There are pros and cons on both sides. I have pondered both. We council members are elected, number one, to represent our constituents, and number two, to make decisions in the best interest of the city. Sometimes these don't connect, but we have to do what we feel is best with what we're told. Here, thank God, we are not selected by citizen, or we are selected by citizen votes and not influenced by commercial presidents. The citizens voted us in the office because they trust us. That is a very important part. Trust us. There has been a serious trend by the citizens not to trust government, not only in Orange, but in the United States. I came up with a saying, and it's funny because it's almost what Miss Annette said. The few are many, and the many are millions. Now with this, that describes such a larger scale, but it applies to Orange too. If this associates 2, 4, 6 families, then it is the same as doing a whole city. I mean, it applies. We have to take each one at that level and decide. The 6 families are important. It's time for us to show the citizens of Orange that we are there for them and have their back. This situation ain't easy for my decision in this particular case, since it is a win-win situation, as Mr. Dorman has stated today. They can keep the property R3, and we can still get a new business in. It doesn't get better than that. So, with that, that's my feelings on it, and I'll vote that way.
Appreciate it, Mr. Councilman Pullen. We have a whole agenda left and a long time to go. And I don't want to rush anyone because this is very important, but I think we've covered a lot of territory. I think both sides have got their issues and points out. So at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Still public hearing. before Mr. Adams got it, belonged to Dr. Wynn Pierce, am I right?
Yes.
Halliburton bought
Miss
property.
Miss Belfield, I just closed the public.
No,
I'm closing the hearing, yes. Okay. Hearing's closed. So
well,
I'm moving.
paper and television, you're gonna hear me. Because I know about that property, and I know those people are right. That was supposed to be property for people to build houses.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, you've closed the public hearing, so you can move on to ordinance 8.
Item 8, ordinances. A, first reading, consider an ordinance amending the City of Orange official zoning map, a part of Chapter 12, Planning and Zoning of the 2000 Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Orange, Texas, changing the zoning classification of Lot 789 of Block 8 of the LT Grubb subdivision, also known as 1402, 1404, 1406 10th Street, all in Orange County, Texas, from R2 medium density residential zoning district to C1 light commercial zoning district, providing for the official zoning map of the City of Orange, Texas, to reflect such change, providing for an effective date, providing for a severability clause, repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance to the extent of such conflict, and making certain findings relative thereto.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
If I may, could I have a moment before you vote?
Yes.
Seventh inning stretch like baseball.
Yeah, my knee started. It felt better after that.
Will you order in?
Yeah, we need some guns. What we're talking about now.
Okay.
Somebody have some chips in their purse?
My thing was, that's what I say. Yeah. That's true. I know.
Sound like Perry Mason for a second.
No, he sounded like Perry Masonry.
Perry Mason for real.
No, Perry Masonry.
Here I come.
You've been quiet down there, Debbie.
This was an easy one here.
We told him that the other day you want to pay. So
Ma'am?
See, they gotta have police out.
Yes. Oh, a lot.
what happened?
Spectrum. The people who don't have digital boxes have to turn their boxes in. And one day, the line was, I was wondering what was going on. Did you see it? Wait a minute.
That's why it's good to always hear all sides.
Major, are you leaving us?
That was good.
Tricia, after the meeting, I have that item for you. After the meeting, I'll give you that item that you sent me the email. Grover. Hey, Grover. Grover, your death is here. She's charging her phone. She don't ever charge her phone.
This is good for me. I'm fixing to vote for something.
Let's see her.
Which one is the insurance? Phil. Leanne, I just wanted to say your name. You know I love you. You're my favorite person. Major, you came in at the wrong time. We needed people shot a long time ago.
Something to eat now.
I did. I don't know what you're talking about.
This is strip. That's what you put.
Me either. Me either. I don't know what's going on. This is amazing. My husband said, we're gonna go out and eat dinner after council meeting. No, we're not, because I don't eat after 8. So I'm going to bed hungry.
Oh, no.
And all I wanted was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We'll talk to tomorrow. Tomorrow. To next year.
No, this is what's going on.
What is that they're saving on that, something, because it now, it was a 3, what it was, the chief, the fire department. They were ranking, it was a 3 and now they're 2. What kind of ranking he was talking about? And what was it based on? How well they did? Really?
So this one we have more cheap.
More able to respond in a
Right out the street,
How much training?
What is it called though?
It's about 800.
What's the name of the lady? That could be what he was talking about. What she
Oh. Put your phone in your shirt pocket. Okay. Put your phone in your shirt pocket. I like that shirt. Thank you. Yeah, Shani. I didn't get a chance to go home and put a dress on. Yeah, she was telling me it's coming out. It started messing with her smart. Hey, Larry. Larry.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will resume council meeting. Mr. Knopf, you have some.
Mayor, if I could, before Mr. Knopf speaks, Mr. Knopf brought to my attention a step in the ordinance that needs to be addressed before you put it to a vote. I'll let Mr. Knopf make a comment, and then we'll follow it up by the city attorney.
I was reviewing the Code of Ordinances, and this is one that I've missed, and it's my fault. The Code of Ordinances says that if 20% or more of the people within 200 feet of the subject property are opposed to the rezoning, that it takes a 3/4 vote of the council to approve it. We have not determined that 20%, and we have to think about how would we determine that 20% opposition. But you need to be aware that there is that provision in the Code of Ordinances that says, basically, if you have a piece of property and within 200 feet of it, if 20% or more of the people are opposed to rezoning it, it takes 3/4 of the council to approve it. And that's one I missed. I just missed it.
So what do we do now?
I'll have Mr. Sweeney.
Well, if you take a vote and it passes 4-3, that's not a sufficient vote. It would take a 5-2 vote to do it. So if it is voted down 4-3 or 5-2 or whatever, that brings the matter to an end for at least a year. So there's two things you can do. You can take a vote, but if the 20% of the people have not, of the property owners within 200 feet have not been determined, you may also elect to postpone the vote until the next council meeting or call a council meeting to have the vote. To allow Mr. Knopf to determine who the property owners are and how they stand on this. So that's what's before the council. If it fails tonight, in other words, the council votes against it, then that's the end of the matter anyway, because it isn't even a majority vote. But a 4-3 vote of the council is not going to be sufficient to pass it.
Now, this is concerning the one on 10th Street, the original 7A, right? Where 7A, we talked about Lisa and Demetrius Hunter, and now we're on 8A. That's what you're talking about right now.
Well, you passed that one unanimously.
Yeah, that's going to probably be.
So that's no issue. It was passed 7-0.
But
you pass that one 7-0, that's going to be 3/4 of the council regardless. I am talking about this vote on this particular piece tonight.
The one we're voting on right now that he was reading is the one that's going to talk about the 10th Street property.
Right, we feel comfortable because of your
think we'll be
lack
fine.
of comment and lack of opposition to 8A that it should pass
Right.
and be sufficient with the requirements of the ordinance.
Mr. Knopf was just wanting to let us know the rules, so we didn't.
And I apologize for the inconvenience of the
Okay.
council.
Thank you, Mr. Knopf.
apologize also, I missed it.
No, man.
That's
you're
okay.
fine.
Thank
You're
you.
fine. Good
And
job.
it's
Thank you.
200 feet.
The good thing is that he caught it.
That's
He
right.
caught it in
That's the good
time so
thing.
that I could give you the proper advice
We're good.
on this particular issue. Now, the first thing, the council didn't even hear any opposition
Right.
to that. So that's good. But on this one, there is opposition, and in looking at the map, you can't determine right off what's within 200 feet. I can't do it. But if there's only a single owner of a property and he owns 5 or 6 acres, he has one vote, But looking at all the buildings around here, I don't know who the owners are and what constitutes 20%.
So that does include commercial.
Oh, yeah, it would
So you
be
have to
within
find out who the
200
commercial
feet.
property owners
It was
are.
200 feet, Councilman Pullen, yeah, it would be within 200 feet regardless of what the zoning is.
Okay.
So you could take a vote, but I don't think a 4-3 would confirm it unless we know what the 200, the property owners within 200 feet think.
So you recommend you go back and?
Well, you can. You can, after hearing this, you can postpone it till the next council meeting, if that's what your pleasure is. Or you can take a vote.
And if we vote 4-3, what happens?
I don't think we need to.
I don't think we need to.
Let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. Do you think it's advisable for them to take action on 8A, which is the barbershop question on 10th Street?
Yes.
Okay, let's
go.
put that to bed and then we'll have a discussion in
Okay.
just a second, if it's your
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay, you have a motion and a
8A,
second.
And a second.
ordinance
We have a
action
motion
item.
second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes on 8A.
And
Now,
and 8,
That's out of the way.
that vote suffices and follows the ordinance. Now, for 8B, the concern that the staff has that we overlooked was if you vote to approve it, there's a requirement in the ordinance that says you have to have basically polled property owners within 200 feet of the property in question of being zoned. The staff has failed to do that.
And
So-
that was on the B one that's coming up, correct?
It could have been on the A one, but we
Yeah.
felt the pulse of you that it was there was no opposition because we weren't challenged with any opposition or questioned by any opposition. In this one, we want to make sure and I don't know if you are, if it was to pass, if it was to pass at a 4-3 ratio, it does not meet the requirement in the ordinance that Mr. Knopf just recently found. If it fails, it'll be fine, it will meet the requirements of the ordinance because it failed.
Well, I
And
have a
don't know how
question.
y'all are gonna vote.
But if it,
200 feet from which line? The C2 or the R2D2 line? Which line?
You tripping.
All the lines? 200 feet from any line?
200?
So you're talking.
200 feet from the subject property, which would be that 120 feet by 500 feet. From that, that's the subject property being considered for rezone.
again, my question is what happens if we vote 4-3? What is the procedure after that? What do we do?
If you vote 4-3 in favor of it, it's my opinion that you haven't met the requirement of the ordinance. And I think you're in very much danger of getting that voided. Now, if you pass 4-3 against, it's over.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Turn it down. Right, is turned down 4-3, that will end the issue.
Can I make a motion that we
regardless.
table this and get better clarification? Because I'm not understanding this. I hear you say 200 feet from any line,
I didn't say that either.
From the subject property, from the boundary of the subject
from
property.
the R2D2 line.
It's so 200 feet from the property in question.
I do, I know I said R2D2.
Mayor, to follow Councilwoman Burnett's request, that might be the best and safest thing, but I added with this statement. When you revisit this, it will not require a public hearing. You will go straight to a vote on it.
That's a good thing.
That's
Okay? You've met the requirement of the public hearing.
Okay, so is there a motion to table?
So moved.
A second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Again, I apologize, it's a requirement.
Okay, we'll move to,
I mess up all the time.
No, sir.
Bring it back up, that we need to come back.
That's over.
No.
There won't be anything next time but a vote.
Okay.
That's it. No more hearing. Everybody had an ample opportunity, I think it's very clear, to air all of this tonight.
He can contact his council members just like anybody in this room can contact our council members.
okay, I'm moving to 9, resolutions. A, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager and the emergency management coordinator to amend Annex P hazard mitigation plan to include the following language in order to pursue an option of flood mitigation projects throughout the city of Orange. Chief Brown.
Mayor, Council, the way our plan reads now is just, there's very specific areas that we can address, and so we're just trying to put a blanket statement within that annex so that as we recognize areas that need to be mitigated, we'll have the way to do that. So it's just a wording issue.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9B, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 5-year agreement with Inframark LLC for professional operations and maintenance services for the Jackson Street wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Wolf.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. We are pleased to present.
Mr. Wolf?
Excuse me, Ms. Wolf. I want to save you the time. I make a motion to table this. We were under the understanding we were going to have another meeting prior to meeting in council. So I make a motion to table this until we can have another meeting.
I'll second.
Yeah.
What, this item here?
Yes.
Yes, sir. They were supposed to do a contract, come back to us, and where we could go over it again and discuss it. I listened to the tape of the meeting, and that was the last statement made by Ms. Wolf.
Is this the same company that met with us before?
They just changed names.
What's this? Okay, we have a motion and second to table it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, table.
Mayor, before you move on, if y'all want another meeting, when do y'all want this scheduled?
How you say?
Sir?
As soon as possible.
72 hours?
It could be
If it has to be 72 hours.
What was the meeting for on April the 3rd? I just saw it in here.
Quality of life.
That's for, projects.
Workshop.
April,
Could we hang them together?
I don't think y'all have the strength to do both of
No,
those.
no, they need to be separate.
I would say it'd be more or less to the convenience of the company. We'd like to talk to them again, so when they can get down here, let us know. Because there's a lot of questions that weren't answered.
Yeah, I was trying to add up all the allowances in it.
We'll schedule and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Item 10, discussion action. A, consider a motion to approve a request on behalf of TXH2O, Mr. Sean Compton, to host a jet ski racing event of the city boat ramp July 14th, 15th, 2018 at a fee of $15,000 funded by the Orange Convention and Visitors Bureau in an effort to promote tourism. Mr. Trahan.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you. Basically, we have an opportunity to host this event at the city boat ramp. We, first of all, checked our event calendar. That is an open weekend. Texas H2O's representative is actually out of Carthage, Texas. And basically, there would potentially be racers from Texas, of course, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. They are doing some other events in the region. Currently, they're working on an agreement with Gene's Power Sports, which is a private lake off of Interstate 10 near the Mont Bellevue and Baytown area, tentatively scheduled for the weekend of April 21st and 22nd. So basically, in a nutshell, I can confirm that we do have the budget to be able to put this on. The mayor mentioned a $15,000 fee is what we're looking at in terms of being the host site. There's some contingencies in terms of including 5 hotel rooms for the main principals of the race producer that actually has this event in terms of reaching out to us and thinking about it. We do have the budget to be able to support this, thankfully, and it gives us an opportunity to add yet another event, something new that we haven't done before. So that being said, if you are open to this and you approve the motion for us to move forward, since this is an organization that we haven't worked with before, we'll continue to work with the city attorney, Mr. Jack Smith, in terms of structuring the final agreement, making sure this organization meets all of the insurance liability requirements, and we'll keep it on the calendar for July 14th and 15th, and then move forward with the advertising plan. That's what we have available to us.
How did y'all end up in this, in the discussion to even do that?
Well, actually, I
They came to you, or-
have to credit Mayor Sims. Mayor Sims brought it to my attention. He had the contact names and the numbers.
Thank you, Mayor.
And he said, Jay, I'd really like for you to check into this, gather the information, and bring it to us as a council. So our CVB staff first met, vetted the process. Keep in mind, this is a new organization we haven't worked with yet. So they will be coming to the area. We wanted to make sure that you had a pulse and a comfort level for us to move forward with the next steps of the process before we bring them in from Carthage and they survey the boat ramp area live in person, because they're going to be coming into Baytown at some point, and we have time to structure this. So that was the rationale behind it. We briefed the city manager, and so we agreed, let's take it to the council. If it's something that all of you have a comfort level with, then we'll continue to move forward with the steps.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion?
Great
Any
idea.
opposed?
Great idea.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 10B, consider a motion approving a license agreement between the City of Orange and Colby and Recent Nelms to construct an outdoor kitchen in the utility easement of 6360 Chase Gardens Drive.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I have one question. I know y'all want to get out of here. Dr. Hoover,
Yes, sir.
on this, when they do this, do they check for the gas lines and stuff like you do when you build? Say I built a shed in my backyard. They were concerned of a gas line, you know, and.
Who's they?
If they
The
cut
city,
one of them,
or
they're
Energy and the gas company.
You,
What's that,
I
Bill?
got too much.
If one of those, they have to be located before you do anything on the property. Or the person that, in fact, one time, one of my guys poked a hole, a little tiny hole in the gas pipe, and I spent a year trying to get it straight. They'll stay on you and stay on you, and then the next time they find you $5,000. So before they do anything, they're gonna have to do locates.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't mess
For
with.
being an outdoor kitchen, I just want to make sure they didn't have a,
Yeah, you call it
a little leak.
Yeah, you call it 811 number.
Okay.
Dr. Aubrey, but if
It's
the city
811.
needs the easement, they understand they may have to move the kitchen, correct?
Yes, sir, that's what this whole agreement is about.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10D, consider a motion declaring equipment 2003 Ford F-150 unit 0882UC, 2007 Ford F-150 unit 0431AG, 2004 Ford E-250 unit.
Mrs. C.
I'll make a
No,
motion.
we've already done C.
We did C and
We
then
did.
went backward.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Oh.
I'll make a motion.
Charles Reed. We've already voted on that.
I second.
Did you already get the expedition?
No, I was on, okay, E-250 unit 0032 ED 2009 Ford F-150 unit 0473AL, 2005 Ford Expedition unit 0962DE as surplus and authorizing disposal by auction through Renee Bates Auctioneer, Inc.
Yes, Mayor, Council, these are vehicles that have served their useful wear to the city operations. One is in water production, one is in sewer operations, one is in coming out of building services, one is coming out of the water meter shop, and then the Ford Expedition is coming out of the fire department. So we'd like your permission to advertise these on Renee Bates.
I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10E, discussion possible action regarding an online backflow management system and an online customer service inspection management system.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. Recently, staff was introduced to a service that will benefit city staff and assure TCEQ compliance in the field of backflow prevention.
Are we having trouble with TCEQ on that, or they? come
We have
down
trouble
on-
with TCEQ just about everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
They love to write us up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, the backflow
I can't
prevention, the backflow prevention is a challenge, no doubt about it. We currently monitor or police about 75 or 100 backflow prevention devices in the city. And what that means is when they become delinquent at a 12-year renewal period, then we're held responsible. If TCEQ
It's 12
comes-
months, isn't it?
It's a 12-month
They
cycle,
said 12 years.
12 month. I'm sorry, did I say 12
Yeah,
years?
it's
12
it's
months
late.
cycle.
okay.
It's late.
And so, we have to send out letter notices to remind them that they need to have their test conducted again. We have to keep files of all the test reports. And like I say, TCEQ, upon a drop of the hat inspection, they will write us up for those that are repeat offenders, certainly. So, sometimes we have to send out 2 and 3 notices.
Yeah.
And it ends up being months behind. So
Yeah, well,
this is a service, an online service. It won't cost the city anything. I have a representative here, Mr. Doug Goodwin, with the firm to answer any questions. They currently now serve Georgetown and Baytown. They're in the area of Bridge City and West Orange here locally. And the backflow prevention testers that you're familiar with, Mr. Mello, use this company for record keeping and things of that nature. So it will relieve city staff of a lot of headaches that we currently have right now.
Yeah, there's some things that, I do that through our company, so there's some things I don't like about it. It adds $12, I believe, to every customer whenever they, do the inspection, and then there's some, it makes it harder for us to get repeat business, but I'm still gonna make a motion to do it.
So moved.
I'm
Second.
making a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
That
other
means-
discussion?
That means I don't always vote for what's just good for me.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10F, Discuss and possible action regarding the AT&T Communications site lease agreement.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. We were recently approached a few months back with the proposal to modify, AT&T to modify their antenna mounting system and number of antennas that are currently supported by our Turret Street water tower. And so after I got to looking at it and looking at the engineering involved, the structural considerations for it, that was okay. I had discussions with their engineers and all that was fine. But more and more as I got into it, I saw that really they should give us a lump sum payment. They've done it before for us, a $5,000 lump sum payment. And also go back and look at the customer or consumer price index. So when they went back, they thought that they saw that they had shorted us for about a year and a half there. So what we're proposing is a modified, an amendment to the contract that would increase our monthly payment of $483 up to $543. That allows for about a 12.5% CPI increase. That will go into effect immediately upon approval of this document, and it will continue in force for the remainder of this term of the contract, as well as the renewal contracts thereafter.
So
You made a
how
comment.
long is it, the contract for?
The contract is a five-year contract, and it renews automatically at the end of 5 years. We initiated the contract in 2011. So 2016 was a renewal, and we should have gotten the full CPI there, and that's where we were shorted. There was an amendment, I think, back in 2014, and they should have caught it there, but I think we're back on track now. I think with this adjustment, I had to go round and round with them, but we finally got it straightened out.
Mr. Wolf, I had a constituent ask me to find out if there's any possibility of radiation emitting into the water tank from the antennas and the,
okay,
because of the power and all that. Do we have any study concerning that, or does AT&T
I'll
have any
have to
study?
inquire about that.
If you can just get back with me, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have a contract with one, it's a different company, but I was able to get them to, you know, they said they was gonna give it 10% after so many years, and I don't remember the year, but they ended up giving me a portion of it every year, so it actually paid out more money.
And that's basically what they're doing here.
They're making back payments on it.
Yeah, they decided just to go ahead and bump it up because they want to go forward with this. And we've, you know, been kind of sitting on it until it got straightened out. But I will check on that radiation.
I approve.
We have a motion?
Well, are we gonna find out about that other? Okay, so who seconded it? I'll second.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any other discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 10G, discussion possible action regarding membership to the National League of Cities.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff was asked to prepare the memo that I attached to your agenda on page 140 about the National League of Cities. National League of Cities is basically a national, what we belong to already, the Texas Municipal League.
I'm sorry, did you say 140?
Page 140 in your agenda.
My 140, well, never mind, I apologize.
They are the national equivalent of what Texas Municipal League is to the state, as we are a member. Annual membership of the National League of Cities is $1,489. Services that they provide are education and training. Topics of the education and training is in technology, transportation, youth and family, legal and legislative, public safety, infrastructure, leadership and management, finance and economic development, just to name a few. One of the questions that research in this memo has indicated is not only has the membership, the annual membership and what it provides, history shows that the city was a member in 2009 to 2013. And at that time, the council seated, wanted to join to be able to get access. If you remember, that was all during the Affordable Care Act, the initiation of it and the sign-up. And people were concerned about what health care was going to cost. At the time, the National League of Cities came out with what they called a discount prescription card to issue to the citizens. And that was the purpose of joining in. Now, some of the questions have arisen to possibly attend some of the training. And so your question is twofold tonight that you posed to the staff. A, do you want to join as a council? And B, since y'all have never experienced taking out-of-state travel, if out-of-state travel becomes accessible through this membership, do y'all want to approve out-of-state travel for the council members?
I'm going to take a page from Councilmember Pullen's book. I have been interested in the National League of Cities for a while, and for one reason or another, council has never attended any of the things that they do. To give you a little bit of information about the goodness of NLC, they do federal lobbying. They lobby Congress on multiple issues, which include city infrastructure, particularly transportation, strengthening and stabilizing the housing market, helping to build stable families, supporting community safety, etc. The core lobbying principles include avoiding unfunded mandates, preserving local authority, and protecting the intergovernmental partnership. Every year, the NLC hosts an annual Congress of the Cities and Exposition. They do this every year. Last year, the summit was hosted in Charlotte, North Carolina. There was a lot going on during the time that was hosted. When you get an opportunity to meet with other elected officials that are not in the wonderful state of Texas, you'd be amazed at the things that people are doing throughout the United States that can help us to better ourselves. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just that some things were forgotten. And the National League of Cities have actually bumped up what they do for you and I so that we can be able to be better for the people out there. One of the things that really caught my eye is they have an online discussion group if you're a part of the NLC. And the online discussion group will allow you to build community, communicate with like-minded people, and collaborate with your peers. In fact, something that caught my eye the other day when I was browsing the benefits of being a member was the discussion of history and how it can be the neighborhood's greatest assets. And I thought about Mr. Lowe and what he's trying to do with the Orange African American Museum. They actually were discussing things like that, but because we're not members, I couldn't really get in to see what it was. And as of today, they have 49 states, to include New Mexico, as members of the National League of Cities. I'm ready to get even more knowledge and understanding that's going to help me help someone else. And, you know, if you go online and look for yourself, a lot of things that they do, it's on the national level. Even though Texas could probably stand by itself, it would be nice to hear how other cities in other states are maintaining and going forward.
Can't teach an old dog new trick, but you can.
Thank you for calling me an old dog.
Actually, I was talking about myself. I think the more training we have.
No, it's not a motion. I was just taking one of his tricks.
That's one thing.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
So could the city afford it, is one thing, 'cause it's gonna, you know.
It's one thing putting the membership in the budget, but the last line down here, it says, does the council wish to set its travel policy and budget to consider out-of-state training? I would be against that. So it's a
So it'd be up to
I don't think the taxpayers should be paying for us to go out of state. If we're a member of the group, that's fine, but we should pay our own way.
Well, I don't agree with that.
I don't agree.
And the reason why is because we bring the knowledge that we obtain, we're here to help our city grow, and we're here for our constituents, the residents, and so, I don't know. I don't agree with
Maybe
that.
we can, due to the time we've been working, let's try to address it in two questions, because the second one can only be answered if you answer the
Where's
first
the
one.
travel?
So is it the pleasure of the council to join the National League of Cities for $1,400 and, I think, $89? I don't want to
think
turn
we
back to the
would
page, but is it the pleasure of the council to join?
Almost.
So
I
moved.
agree. I agree.
Can you, is that, I need a motion.
Oh, I motion.
I
Larry
second.
and
We have a
Terry.
motion second.
All in, go
All in
ahead.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, thank you very much. And so B, the B question is, does council want to set a travel policy where you're able to travel out of state to attend National League of Cities?
Can we do this now versus at the budget time? I mean, I don't understand how
Well,
that'll
there wouldn't be any
work.
money till the budget.
Well,
We can do
I
that.
think there's some available training if you join now that will come accessible to you when you join.
Oh,
Where
okay.
does that money come from?
Come out of reserves.
Reserves?
Yes, sir, at this
Are we
point.
okay on reserves, that we can do that?
Well, I sent you a memo of what you expended on debris removal already.
I saw that.
And you're beyond your reserves.
Yeah. We're waiting on to be reimbursed, which may or may never ever come.
Correct.
It makes this a hard decision.
So I need to make a motion for discussion?
We are discussing.
No, no,
Reimbursement.
then we can have a second, then vote it up or down.
You guys want to
So I'm
table
not
it
making
till we
a
see
motion.
if we get paid for the trash?
So
Well, sure.
that's,
They said that they would approve.
you know, the G is only about the membership.
Yes.
So we're
Yeah.
not
So-
voting.
Okay, I
We
thought
don't
that's
have another
the
agenda
second part of the
item.
question.
Right.
I think we
voted for that.
passed G. Let's move
We
to
passed
H.
G.
Okay.
Yeah.
Discussion action,
then I have to
H,
put another-
discussion and possible action regarding necessary business resulting from Hurricane Harvey.
Just a few updates, Mayor and Council. First of all, tracking the water and sewer revenue, because we think it's all Harvey-related because of the Harvey hurricane itself. Revenue in water and sewer is all 5%. Don't know if you'll get that back, but I just want you to be advised. Right now, for a calendar-to-calendar comparison, you're off where you need to be, about 5% in water and sewer. Recently, I attended the executive meeting for Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission. I know a lot of you get asked about when the money's come, or you've been told the money's coming. I don't know what that money is or when it's coming myself, but the only thing that the Planning Commission has been contracted to do is monitor, well, basically, it's under the short-term recovery program, and it is to monitor the trailers that have been set up in neighborhoods in front of our neighbors' homes. And in Orange County, FEMA received 394 applications. And to date, 163 of those have been completed, and they're working on 45 which have work orders issued, and 35 being under review of those numbers. For the long-term recovery, the Southeast Texas Planning Commission will be responsible for preparing what they call a method of distribution for non-housing infrastructure, which will include buyout funding allocated to the three-county region, and that is Orange, Jefferson, and Hardin County. The Planning Commission is still waiting for the release of Hurricane Harvey Action Plan from the Texas General Land Office. This action plan will detail the amount of funding available and the requirements to use those funds. Once this document's released, the Planning Commission will be requesting information from the local communities. They will hold public hearings in order to complete the method of distribution for our area. So the reason why I bring that up is there's not money here yet. There's not a contract for the parties to enter into to receive the money. I don't know when that's coming. That's just my report on where we're at right now. So that's all I have on that. Thank you,
All right.
Mayor.
Thank you.
We'll move to 11, reports. City manager report.
Couple of comments there. On Saturday, May 5th, the Planning Commission is going to host a household hazardous waste and scrap tire collection event, which will be held at Ford Park Pavilion. This is rotated through each county. Every 3 years, we get to host it. Last year, it was in Vidor, so that covers the Orange County area. This will be posted and advertised more, but people in this community and this city can participate in this. They have to take all their stuff to Ford Park in Beaumont on May 5th.
What's the date, the 5th?
May 5th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Next thing I want to tell you is about a planned City Council Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing for rezoning of property located at 16th Street and Interstate 10. This meeting will be Tuesday, April 3rd at 5:30 p.m. here in this chamber. Lastly, city offices will be closed this Friday, which will be March 30th. All non-essential City of Employee offices will be closed. Those that have trash pickup will receive trash pickup this day. That is not a city-recognized holiday for trash service. So those of you that have waste management services on Friday, put your card out, you'll be serviced on Friday. Those are all my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. City council report, start on my right.
Thank everybody for coming and watching. We have a lot to do, and hopefully we can get back together and get these issues addressed. We want to make sure that we make the best decisions for the citizens. That's all I have.
I'd like to thank Orange County Commissioners Court for signing a resolution to request TxDOT to address the Adams Bayou bridges, possibly raising them. That's a start on trying to drain the northern part of our city. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you.
We picked up trash on Saturday.
Good job.
Oh, yes. That was nice.
I have to be honest with you, that was the most fun I have ever had. Picking up trash along 16th Street. A lady even brought me a donut, which it was a wonderful thing. I think there's going to be another trash pickup. I'll wait till it gets down to the guy in the pink check shirt. But come out and help us out. We don't need any more overachievers like Trish and Chief Martin. One bag is enough.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Bassmasters, 6 to the 9. Gonna be a really good deal. That's a good thing for Orange. And then you can Easter egg hunt on Friday, isn't it?
Yep,
From
Friday.
starting at 10 o'clock. And it's at the,
Pavilion.
Riverfront Pavilion.
Riverfront Pavilion.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Yes, once again, thank everybody for coming out. On a sad note, I would like to send my condolences to the Gobert family and the Franks family, who both reside here in Orange. Both of them lost family members this past weekend, and it was just two tragedies, and so we are praying for you and we love you. To what Ms. Annette Purnell said, the trash pickup Saturday, it was it was an awesome experience. Thank you to everyone that came. To those who couldn't make it, I also want to apologize because I know we threw it out there all of a sudden. And so everybody that wanted to come couldn't. But really, we wanted to do it to bring about awareness. We had several people calling, that were fed up and had had enough. And I felt like it was a good way to bring awareness. I mean, we picked up, there was drug paraphernalia that was picked up.
Knives.
We picked up knives. One knife was that long. And then I went back and spoke to some of those businesses, and even they said that they had already talked with each other on how they were going to start trying to do better, because it kind of, I ain't gonna say embarrassed them, but they were like, man, to see us out there picking up their trash, they wanted to get more involved. So thank you everyone again, and good job on tonight's meeting.
I have no comment, and is there a motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, council.